And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this very special edition on the long weekend of 3rd of May 2021. 3rd of May 2021, and it's a Labor Day weekend here in Brisbane. So Labor Day, we will look at the history of Labor Day, why and how it began. But in today's episode, we will be talking about the candlelight vigil that is being held by the wider Indian community today at 5:30 p.m. in King George Square. We'll also look at the COVID crisis situation in India. We will also look at Mamta Banerjee and her third win. So there's lots to talk about in today's segment, which is a long weekend segment on this Labor Day holiday right here in Brisbane. So Labor Day, why and how did it come about? Let's take a quick look.
Welcome back to the Story of Liberty. This is John Bona. You know, the year was 1882 when a man named Matthew Maguire, a machinist, first proposed Labor Day while serving as a secretary for a company. It's interesting that Oregon was the first state to make it a holiday in 1887. And by the time it became a federal holiday in 1894, 30 states officially celebrated Labor Day. It's also interesting that George Pullman, who founded the Pullman Railroad Sleeping Car Company in Chicago in 1893, was very successful, but right at that time there was a nationwide recession that kicked in, and orders for his new railroad sleeping cars declined. Unfortunately, like today, many people lost their jobs, some were laid off. The ones that stayed had to take a cut in wages, or the cost of living stayed the same or increased. Workers were dismayed. A young worker by the name of Eugene Debs, he led a strike against the Pullman Company, and railroad workers across the nation boycotted the Pullman cars. There was rioting and the burning of railroad cars, and it became a national issue when even the mail was interrupted. The president at the time, Grover Cleveland, declared the strike a federal crime. He deployed 12,000 troops to break up the strike. Men were killed in the disruption. Well, it was Congress ultimately that voted to approve rush legislation, and they made Labor Day a national holiday. Cleveland signed it into law a mere 6 days later at the end of the strike. It was an election year, and Grover Cleveland knew that it would help his re-election if he appeased the workers, so he pushed for a national Labor Day. He chose the first Monday in September. This holiday of Labor Day, it's often regarded as a day of rest and parties. It's a big retail day too, to take advantage of the large numbers of customers free to go shopping. It's become an important sale weekend for many retailers in America. Some retailers claim it's one of the largest sale days of the year, second only to the Christmas season. Labor Day has come to be celebrated by most of us here as a symbolic end to summer. Yes, it's back to school. Labor Day was considered the last day of the year when it was in fashion to wear white or seersucker. I don't see anybody wearing seersucker anymore. In sports, Labor Day marks the beginning of NFL and college football. College football, they usually play their first games of the week before Labor Day. And the NFL traditionally playing their first game.
That's a bit of history about how Labor Day came about, and that was, of course, America. But we know that here in Australia, Labor Day falls on the first Monday of May every year in Queensland. This year Labor Day is Monday 3, which is today. Labor Day is an annual public holiday to celebrate the 8-hour working day solidified in the late 19th century. Workers argued for an extended 8-hour work day, 8 hours for leisure and 8 hours for rest. This day is celebrated on separate dates in each state, as we know. So Western Australia, 1st of March. Tasmania and Victoria, 8th of March. Queensland and Northern Territory, which is today, the 3rd of May. New South Wales, ACT and South Australia on 4th of October in 2021. So, what's open on Labor Day? Shopping, the majority of shopping centres will be closed today, with the exception of dining precincts and cinemas. Independent retailers and restaurants will be open, but remember to check your local favourites whether they are open before you head out. And don't forget that from 1st of May, the Queensland check-in app has become mandatory as well. Coles, Woolworths and Aldi stores will be closed today, with some exceptions. Woolworths at Skygate will continue to trade 24 hours. Services, Australia Post will be closed. Public transport will run on different timetables during Labor Day public holiday. Bus services will operate on public holiday timetable with the exceptions of City Glider, Maroon City Glider and reduced routes. All train services will operate but on a public holiday timetable. CityCat, Bulimba and Southern Moreton Island ferries will be operating on Sunday and public holiday timetables. City Hopper, Kangaroo Point, Cross River and Norman Park will be operating on regular Monday timetables. So they were up to date on Australian Indian Radio. That's your Labor Day and what it's happening. And very soon there will be the march, which will probably go past here as it does every year. Well, right now, the event that everyone's been talking about is the Candlelight Vigil, which will be held at King George Square today from 5:30 onwards. And just to let everyone know that this is a united and a combined community effort which has been put together by coming together of many community organizations such as GoPure Queensland, GoPure Gold Coast, AIBC, the FICQ, Gandhi Salt March Limited, Indian Medical Associations, Queensland Chapter, Brisbane Indian Times, Australian Indian Radio, and Hindi Gaurav. And it's also being supported by many other organizations as well. So this is happening today at 5:30. Now the idea of this is to stay, to send us a message to India to stay safe. Of course, this is a crisis situation, so it is not been amplification of the situation. It's not any kind of a protest or demonstration. It is a peaceful standing by India in the moment of crisis and a function by the community for the community. I hope to see you all there at 5:30. The Lord Mayor will be in presence and DFET reps will be there as well. All the community organizations will be represented there as well. So that is what's happening at 5:30 p.m. today, and we'll talk more about that as we go along. So hope to see you all there. Well, right now, looking at some of the elections, and of course, Peter Gatwin has once again come back and has come with a good win.
Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Could I begin by firstly acknowledging the Tasmanian Aboriginal people, their elders past, present and emerging. I'd also like to begin by acknowledging my political opponents, Ms White and Ms O'Connor. This has been a hard-fought campaign, and whilst we sit at different places on the political spectrum, I know from our work together, especially early last year when Tasmania was in the grip of the virus in those first couple of months, that both of you, like me, are dedicated to serving the Tasmanian community, and I wish you both well into the future. Well, ladies, Well, ladies and gentlemen, what a night. What a night. And whilst we have won this election convincingly, it appears increasingly likely that we will also govern in majority. And whilst obviously there's some counting to be done, it would be an absolute honour and a privilege to be given that opportunity by the Tasmanian people. And we came to government in 2014 under the leadership of my good friend Will Hodgman. And for the first 6 years we worked hard. We fixed the budget, we rebuilt our finances, and we invested record amounts into essential services. And then two things changed. Firstly, Will Hodgman retired last January. My colleagues elected me to be the next Leader of the Liberal Party and Premier of Tasmania. I said then that I would lead a government of conviction, of compassion, and one of opportunity for all. And that my vision for Tasmania was to ensure that no matter who you are, no matter where you live, your circumstance or background, that I wanted the opportunities that are available in our strong growing economy to be available to you, and that we would take the steps to ensure that you could grasp them. And then secondly, coronavirus emerged as a threat to our health and to our economy, and we all had to work even harder. I want to thank Tasmanians for the way that they work with me and with the government, how they helped their neighbours, how they helped their state over the last year to get on top of that deadly virus. The decisions I had to make as Premier have been among the hardest things that I've ever had to do. But Tasmanians worked together, and as a community we succeeded. Tasmanians, regardless of religion, of race, of politics, circumstance or background, held out their hands to each other in the most extraordinary and outstanding display of a common humanity that I've ever witnessed. And I want to say to Tasmanians, thank you for that, because in doing so, we turned Tasmania into one of the safest places in this country, and without doubt one of the safest places on this planet.
Congratulations on that win, and once again, it is a very, very good win for them this time, and coming in with a majority government, which always makes it in. Now we'll go to Western Australia, where the COVID-19 lockdown, and the Premier there says that they don't want to go into the lockdown if they can help it.
I want to avoid going into lockdown again. I know how much it can impact people's lives and businesses, but if we need to go back into lockdown, we will. That decision will be based on the latest health advice. But currently, at this point in time, we can avoid a lockdown purely based on the restrictions we have had in place over the past week and the requirement that people had to wear masks. It has significantly reduced the risk of transmission in our community. However, regrettably, we have to reinstate some restrictions to protect the West Australian community. We must follow the health advice, because to do the opposite is far more destructive. We're talking about a virus which the world still doesn't fully understand, and which we've seen time and again is causing chaos around the world. We have to clamp down on COVID-19 so we can return to normal business more quickly. So, based on the additional information that has now come to light, we have made the decision to not permit spectators attend the Derby this afternoon. There will be no crowd at this event at Optus Stadium this afternoon. I understand people will be disappointed, some people will be frustrated, but the decision has been made on health advice, and we have tried to communicate this as quickly as possible. The game will still go on, and of course people can watch it from their own homes. The decision to have no crowd at the stadium also helps us in preventing possible transmission on public transport. Having 45,000 people try to get to Optus Stadium at the same time is too much of a risk, especially as we are still going through the close contacts. In addition to the no crowd decision, nightclubs will be closed immediately until at least 12:01 a.m. Saturday the 8th of May. We'll keep monitoring the situation, and if we need to make further adjustments, we will. We are not out of the woods as yet. Our contact tracing team has a massive job underway today. So please, if you have been contacted or are contacted, so if you've been contacted or will be contacted, listen to the advice and follow the instructions. Thank you once again to all West Australians.
And there we go. If you've been contacted, please follow the advices. And of course, as he mentioned there, we are not out of the woods yet. Now, the other news is about this travel ban from India. And of course, we know that it is a temporary measure and it's been put in place to control the virus, and there is all kinds of commentary that's going on. Everyone's entitled to their opinions on the matter as well. But this temporary measure, how did it come about and what it is about? Let's hear that report.
Decision which has been made under the Biosecurity Act on the basis of the advice from the Chief Medical Officer is a temporary pause on returns and is entirely founded in the advice of the Chief Medical Officer. That's what invokes the operation of the Biosecurity Act. What is most important is that it is temporary. We absolutely recognise the very, very difficult circumstances occurring in India right now. Absolutely recognise that. For so many families, and indeed here in Australia for Indian Australians who are so worried about their families overseas. But the experience we had in the month preceding this decision was that 57% of the positive cases in quarantine had been in arrivals from India. That was up from 10% in the previous month. It was placing a very, very significant burden on health and medical services in the states and territories and through the quarantine program.
Doesn't this prove that you're not confident with the hotel quarantine arrangements? You've been saying it's the best in the world.
Well, I think the hotel quarantine arrangements, as the Prime Minister said the other day, have been operating at around 99% efficacy. It absolutely does not prove that we are not confident about the hotel quarantine arrangements. Well, let me say again that the burden that such a high infection rate was placing on the states and territories' medical systems and health systems to address such a high positivity rate was one which had become difficult for them to deal with. So pausing the returns process allows the system to manage those infections, to reduce those numbers, and then we can review the process again on the 15th of May. And as I said, I hope very much that as soon as possible we are able to resume our planning for what was 8 flights in May. Most certainly we are very aware of the importance of that process. We can resume that planning and we can enable those Australians in India, as well as many other Australians who are returning on our facilitated flights, to come back.
So there you go. That explains the situation of why and how all this came about, this temporary measure that's been put in place and to be reviewed in mid-May. Right now, let's take a commercial break.
GlobeNet Realty. GlobeNet Realty has been the longest established, trusted and respected agency in its trade area. Washa Chandra, Director of GlobeNet Realty, provides honest and ethical service to her customers. If you are thinking of investing in Brisbane real estate market, or if you are seeking professional property management, then you should contact Usha Chandra today on landline 3865 4466 or mobile 0419 775 416. And for further updates, log on to our website www.globenetralty.com.au. GlobeNet Realty is your own local real estate agency. Situated at Shop 52281 Sandgate Road, Boondall. GlobeNet Realty. Real estate is our world.
And real estate is there. Well, don't forget that on Wednesday we'll bring to you the real estate update with Usha Chandra right here. Well, of course, the other news that is breaking is Mamta Banerjee and her win in the third time. So, what has happened? Let's take a look at this analysis. I'd say it is quite busy, the screen. When you see it, you'll find figures and everything flashing all over, but that's the way they do it. Well, right now, let's take a look at this report on Mamta Banerjee's third consecutive win.
Her instincts are very strong. Mamta Banerjee did a lot of mid-course correction, and in short, she set the narrative. That worked for Mamta Banerjee. Big gains even for the Bharatiya Janata Party, but Bharatiya Janata Party, of course, it's come up from 3 to 75, which is fairly spectacular, but nowhere close to the 200 mark that was projected. As far as the Congress and the left are concerned, just look at your television screen. 0 for Congress, 0 for left. There is no left in Bengal. That's the current situation. The Trinamool Congress doing better than what they did in 2016. In 2021, the Trinamool Congress has 216. They're leading, and Mamta Banerjee, her gut instincts seem to have worked to contest at Nandigram, because that's where she was able to send across that message that she's not shying away from a battle. She refused to contest from a second seat where it was said that she's almost lost Nandigram, which of course the fact that she's won only by a margin of 1,200 votes is a close battle. She's scraped through. And follow me, these are very, very important takeaways from these elections. Mamta Banerjee, Trinamool Congress, their gut instinct. So much was said about Tolabazi, so much was said about Bhaipo, so much was said about corruption. Ultimately, as far as the Trinamool Congress and their voters are concerned, they have overwhelmingly voted Mamta Banerjee into power, and Prashant Kishore Poulami gave one reason for this. One, the mid-course correction, nimble-footed, adapted to every situation, and two, the BJP took all the garbage, as he put it, garbage of TMC was, they were given tickets, and this didn't go down well, even with the BJP voters. Follow me.
Well, the BJP has a lot of introspection to do, Gaurav. The fact of the matter is that this is not the sort of drubbing that they expected at all, If at all, they were even looking at the possibility of a loss, say, from the fourth phase onwards, when we did see on the ground ourselves that the momentum as far as the BJP campaign was concerned was somehow dipping. We did see that campaign because we didn't see that happening when initially the first couple of phases voted over here. It was very clear, and at that time even TMC thought that they were not in a formidable position, not in a stronger position as compared to the BJP in the districts that went to polls, like the Jangal Mahal districts of Purulia, Bakura, West Midnapur and Jhargram. But eventually they thought that they were picking up, and that definitely started happening from the fourth phase onwards. It was evident on the ground. But there are a lot of factors. This is, like I said, this is not the kind of drubbing that the BJP anticipated, even if they were to have conceded the possibility of a loss before today. This is not something that they saw coming. So there could be many factors. Yes, one of the factors was that there was a lot of disenchantment among their party ranks.
So there were, as is mentioned, the takeaway from this is that Mamta Banerjee has come back in, and Congress has been completely wiped out of there. So there's no left in West Bengal, and of course, we'll keep an eye on the coming days and see how the results and everything sort of take shape. But one of the points right in this time is the international aid that's coming to help India in this time of crisis, as we know. The shortage of oxygen, and of course everyone trying to get on top of things, the shortage of beds, and we have seen some footage which I don't have with me at the moment. There have been many organizations which have come up. These are all charity organizations which have come up and put makeshift tents where they have put beds, where they are making the supply of oxygen available as well. So there are no beds left in the hospital, so they, these community organizations under supervision are providing beds and oxygen. So that's wonderful. It's good to see community organization rising to the occasion. So India receives many supplies of oxygen from overseas. So by rail, by air, whichever means, they are being made. So these are the machines that do produce that. We know that there have been shipments which have been sent from US as well. They had to be converted to 240 volts, as America and US is 110 volts. And of course, there has been shipments that have been arranged from France and from Singapore and Malaysia, and there's many GoPio chapters who are working on that as well. I am on many of those WhatsApp groups, and they're all deciding on how they will all assist. So sometimes there are some logistical challenges as to how to get the things there, some red tape as well, and that's where the government thing comes in handy. But of course, don't get me wrong, any donation or any support is going to make its mark and is going to help the situation. So of course right now we're going to talk about the event that's going to take place today at King George Square, the Candlelight Vigil, standing in unity for India at King George Square from 5:30 onwards. Please bring your battery operated candles, and it will be cold, so come suitably dressed, so that make sure that it and don't forget that this is a function which has been put together by the wider Indian community, all organizations coming together to hold this function, the Candlelight Vigil. Now, of course, there is always, everyone has their own views and many views. Many people said, no, this shouldn't be happening. Other people are all there for support. So if you're supporting the event, please do come along, come and stand by our people there. That's the least we can do. So, at least be there, be present, show your support, show your solidarity. And of course, prayers has never had anyone. So, it will be good to see that. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's about all from us in this segment for today. And of course, we'll bring you updates tomorrow on the event and how it went. Hope to see you all today at 5:30 p.m. onwards at King George Square for the Candlelight Vigil. Until then, it's goodbye from me.